Welcome to Workstyle Stories, because life changes and every life is different. This week is no exception. We are talking about the corporate world of lengthy travel, of working around the world, but also of working more with nature, living and working alongside nature and as part of it. And to talk about that, I'm joined by the lovely Shigeri. Hello. Before we get into the detail, Shigeri, on your work style, would you mind just telling us who you are, where you are, and what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Alex. I'm Shigeri. I live and work in Forest in the Czech Republic, and I'm a consultant for luxury brands.
Wow. I mean, all of that sounded very normal, except for you live and work in Forest in the Czech Republic. So talk to me about, I mean, we're going to obviously get onto that, I guess, in terms of why you're there and how you're there now and what that means for your work style. But what led you to that point, to this position you're in now? What was your kind of working life like that led to this moment?
Yeah, so I worked in international luxury brand, and I worked in Tokyo, in Munich, and in Paris. I had an opportunity to work internationally, and with a lot of traveling. Then, well, there were some life events which jolt me out of this inertia of continuing with the corporate lifestyle. And, yeah, it's like,
what were they?
Yeah, so first I found my husband, who been living in the forest as a forest ranger.
Amazing.
And then I gave birth. And I discovered the lifestyle in the forest. And yeah, those are significant events. And meanwhile, the corporate life continued. And I tried to find if that's compatible. We tried it, didn't work. So we made a conscious decision, a family decision, to lead a good life. And for us, that meant to live and work in the forest, in the nature.
That must have been a very big decision for you. I mean, I assume for your husband as a forest ranger, a more straightforward option, but I guess for you, more of a change in terms of your work and life. Was there ever an underlying thought from you, sort of growing up, that you might live in a forest or with nature in some way, or was this a completely cold, completely new idea for you?
Yeah, good question. So I was never an outdoorsy person who would go trekking in the mountains or whatever, camping. No, I only had high heels and I didn't really have flat shoes until I met him. But then when I look back, I think about my education and my upbringing in Japan, which had a lot to do with living with nature. It was harmony with nature. And also I was schooled in the United States, where I had a lot of discussions about philosophy and how to lead a good life is a typical discussion topic. So those things was only in concept there in the back of my mind. And then when the opportunity presented, I said, okay, why not try it?
That's fascinating. And I can imagine that that sort of philosophical upbringing, the cultural influences that you must have been exposed to during your childhood would have helped with sort of understanding whether a life in the Czech forest was going to be the right thing or not. But even so, a very bold decision. So how has that impacted on the work that you now do then? And how do you kind of fit it around the good life that you've created?
Yeah, it took a while to undo the corporate conditioning that I required. So I was completely workaholic and completely ignored the nature around me. But then I started to follow the rhythm of the nature because it's so present. There is so much power and the gift that we receive from the nature. So over the 6 years I've been freelancing, I started to have a life following the nature rhythm and having the work style around that. And that's how I established over the years. It was not simple and quick, no quick solution, but that's how I'm developed.
I mean, that sounds amazing and instinctively human. So tell me, what does that, how does that manifest? What does the rhythm of nature mean in terms of how you adjust that over the course of a typical year? What does that feel like?
Yeah, so right now it's winter, so we're in the midst of winter, and in where I live, the winter is really long. It's like 6 months. So from November to April, it's winter, and that's dark and cold, but calm and quiet.
Yeah. Okay.
So I allow myself to really focus on work for clients. And as well, I offer and I proactively travel internationally for professional reasons. Then, then the rest of the 6 months, so we have spring, very short 2 months. Then the nature wakes up. So we start to do beekeeping and gardening. And the work-wise, I don't take new projects anymore. I start to finish the milestone or deliver. And then in the summer, I don't do, I do only maintenance work, easy to pick up work with existing clients if I ever do anything. But we have a lot of harvesting and preserving food. We travel with the family, so it's work a bit slows down. Also a reflective moment of my strategy for next year. And then in autumn, again, I have a lot of harvesting and preserving food and preparing wood for winter. And I start to dive into a new project with refreshed energy.
And how do you, I mean, this sounds idyllic. How do you feel, like, compared to how you felt before? Do you notice differences in yourself?
Yeah, so I really feel that I'm in control. I rely on myself. And I really like to I believe in free will. So I like to choose and live the consequence. And that works very well. I enjoy that. And living in the nature, it's so great in terms of mental health. It's nature is very sympathetic. And I enjoy the changes.
I can well imagine. And I really love the clarity with which I can see the difference between a life lived with nature and a life that isn't, a life that's governed by societal constructs like the 9 to 5 and office-based working and all these things that are not nature, that makes me just think that all of that feels wrong intuitively. It doesn't feel human. And I can imagine that living with nature in the way that you describe is incredibly good for your soul, for your well-being and overall happiness, which is what we're all aspiring to, I think. So it's hugely inspirational. And I think very often we're guilty of looking at work style from a physical human point of view. So what do I need? I need to wake up after a good night's sleep. I need to make sure I get exercise. I need to eat well, and all those things that are about ourselves. But very rarely do we consider what's happening around us in nature and in the environment, and in the things that we might be missing each day that could be adding so much to our sense of place and well-being. So this has been a really interesting conversation, opened my eyes to that. Shigeri, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for sharing your Workstyle story. Really appreciate it. We've been Workstyle Stories, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.